Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Om Namo
Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Narayanam Namaskrityam
Narayana Krishna
Naran Chaiva Narottamam
Pranchapatamam
Devim Saraswatim Vyasam
Devim Saraswati Vyasam
Tato Jayamudire
Tojaya Piraye
Nashtaprayasu Abhadresu
Praya
Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya
Nityam
Seva
Bhagavati Uttama Sloke
Bhagavati
Bhakti Tamasloke.
Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki.
Bhakti
Bhakti nice.
Reading from Bhagavad Gita as it is, chapter 15, the title, The Yoga of the Supreme Person, and the verse number is verse number 6. Natat bhasayate suryo
Natad Bhasayate Suryo.
nasa sanko na pavaka
No
Nastanko Nabhavaka.
yadgatva na nivartante
Yadgat
Yadvana Nirvanti.
tadhama paramang mama
Tadhama Param
Mama.
natat bhasayate suryo
No Tat
Bhasayate
Bhagavate Suryo.
nasa sanko na pavaka
Nasa Anko
Sanko Nabhavaka.
yadgatva na nivartante
Yadgat
Yadgatan
Yadvana Nirvanti.
tadhama paramang mama.
Tadham
Dhamma Paramama.
Any Prabhuji or Mataji would like to lead?
Natad Bhasayate Suryo.
No Tat
Natat bhasayate suryo
Nasa Sankona Pavakaha.
No
nasa sanko na pavaka
Jadgatvana Nivartanti.
Yad
yadgatva na nivartante
Tadhama Paramam Mama.
Tadham
tadhamang paramam mama.
Na Tat Bhasayate Surya
Natad
Natat bhasayate suryo
Na Sanko Na Pavak
nasa sanko na pavaka
Yadvana Nibharante
Yadgatvana
yadgatva na nivartante
Tadhama Paramam Mama
Tadhama
tadhama paramam mama.
न तद्भासयते सूर्य
Natat bhasayate suryo
न शशाङ्को न पावकः
Na
nasa sanko na pavaka
यद्गत्वा न निवर्तन्ते
Yadgatvana
yadgatva na nivartante
तद्धाम परमं मम
Tadhama
tadhamam
Paramam
paramam mama. Thank you so much. Word by word meaning. No, not.
Not
Tat, that.
Tat that
Bhasayate, illuminates.
Bhasayate illuminates
Surya, the sun.
Surya the sun.
Na, nor.
No nor
Sasankha, the moon.
Sasanka the moon.
Na, nor.
No nor
Pavaka, fire, electricity.
Pavaka fire electricity.
Yat, where.
Yat where
Gatva, going.
Gatva
Gatva going.
Na, never.
no
No.
never
Nivartante, they come back.
Nivarta
They come back.
Tadhama, that abode.
Tadhama
That abode.
Paramang, supreme.
Paramam
Supreme.
Mama, my.
Mama
Oh my.
Translation by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki jai. That supreme abode of mine
that supreme abode of mine
is not illuminated by the sun or moon,
is
Is
not
not illuminated by the sun or moon,
nor by fire or electricity.
nor by
nor
fire.
by fire or electricity.
Those who reach it never returns to this material world.
Those
Who
those
reach it never return to this material world.
Anyone would like to read this page? We have 1 out of 3 pages. Somebody can read, please.
the spiritual world, the abode of Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna, which is known as Transalok, Golok Vardhana, is described here. In the spiritual sky, there is no need of sunshine, moonshine, fire, or electricity, because all the planets are self-luminous. We have only one planet in this universe, the sun, which is self-luminous. But all the planets in the spiritual sky are self-luminous. The shining effulgence of all those planets called Vaikunthas constitutes the shining sky known as the Brahma Jyotir. Actually, the effulgence is emanating from the planet of Krishna, Golok Vrindavan. Part of that shining effulgence is covered by the Mahatattva, the material world. Other than this, the major portion of this shining sky is full of spiritual planets, which are called Vaikunthas, chief of which is Golok Vrindavan. As long as a living entity is in this dark material world, he is in conditional life. But as soon as he reaches the spiritual sky by cutting through the false perverted tree of this material world, he becomes liberated.
Thank you, Prabhu. Anyone else would like to read this page? Then there is no chance of his coming back here. In his conditional life, the living entity considered himself to be the lord of this material world. But in his liberated state, he enters into the spiritual kingdom and becomes an associate of the Supreme Lord. There, he enjoys eternal bliss, eternal life, and full of knowledge. One should be captivated by this information. He should desire to transfer himself to that eternal world and extricate himself from this false reflection of reality. For one who is too much attached to this material world, it is very difficult to cut that attachment. But if he takes to Krishna consciousness, there is a chance of gradually become detached. One has to associate himself with devotees, those who are in Krishna consciousness. One should search out a society dedicated to Krishna consciousness and learn how to discharge devotional service. In this way, he can cut off his attachment to the material world. One cannot become detached from the attraction of the material world simply by dressing himself in saffron cloth. Anyone else would like to read the 3rd page, which I am showing?
He must become attached to the devotional service of the Lord. Therefore, one should take it very seriously that devotional service as described in the 12th chapter is the only way to get out of this false representation of the real tree. In chapter 14, the contamination of all kinds of processes by material nature is described. Only devotional service is described as purely transcendental. The words Paramaha Mama are very important here. Actually, every nook and corner is the property of the Supreme Lord, but the spiritual world is Paramam, full of 6 opulences. The Katha Upanishad also confirms that in the spiritual world there is no need of sunshine, moonshine, or stars. Na tatra suryo bhati, na chandra tarakam. For the whole spiritual sky is illuminated by the internal potency of the Supreme Lord. That supreme abode can be achieved only by surrender and by no other means.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Let's all chant together. Om Agyana Timirandasya Gyana Janashalakaya Chakshurmilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namah Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamaiham Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Utpadakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunatham Vitam Tam Sajivam साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णपादान् सहगणललिता श्रीविशाखावितंश्च हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगतपते गोपीश गोपिकान्त राधाकान्त नमस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी श्रीमानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वंशकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभैव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवास आदि गौर भक्त वृंद हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे नीलाचल निवासाय नित्याय परमात्मने बलभद्र सुभद्राभ्यां जगन्नाथाय तनु. So thank you so much for joining this Sangha, everyone, on this Saturday evening. Every week we come and discuss this wonderful topic and we pick the top 108 verses of Bhagavad Gita. Last time, out of the top 108 verses, the fifth verse of the 15th chapter, 15.5, was discussed. And we discussed that this material world is a perverted reflection of the spiritual world. And now the question becomes, how does the spiritual world looks like, right? So if last time we discussed in that inverted tree, if you remember, you have the spiritual world where the Supreme Personality of Godhead is standing near a tree and there is a reflection from the pond, and you have all kind of anarthas. As we go down the tree, you go downwards in terms of piety, and then we realize that this material world is temporary, it's full of sadness, and also it's a perverted reflection. So now the question becomes, how does the spiritual world looks? So that's the purpose of this topic, is the qualities of spiritual world. And as Krishna is mentioning, that in Golok Vrindavan, which is where the Supreme Personality of Godhead resides, or which is also referred as Krishna Loka, there is no need for sunshine, moonshine, fire, or electricity, because all planets are self-luminous. So in our material world, we have the sun, which is self-luminous in terms of giving us the sun rays and the light. And in the evening, we have moon, which lights the planet. And in the spiritual world, there is no sun, there is no light. Everything in the spiritual world where the Supreme Personality of Godhead resides is transcendental. And in that transcendental, the shining effulgence of all these planets are coming from the Brahma Jyotir. And this Brahma Jyoti is everything being transcendental. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, wherever he resides, that place is enlightened, and there is no need for these external agencies like the sun, moon, and stars to illuminate the place where the Supreme Personality of Godhead resides, which is eternal. And there, Krishna extremely beautifully um, is saying, Natat Bhasayate Suryo. That means the place where I live, there is no Surya to illuminate, and no Sasanko. Sasank is the name, is a different name for Chandra. And Chandra is not there, na Pavaka. Means no, there is no fire, and the fire can be related to electricity. And whoever has gone there, yat gatyana nivartante, tad dhamam parapam. Anybody who has gone there to the abode where there is no electricity, there's no need for sun, moon, and stars, nobody would uh, like to return to this material world. So we have a lot of clarity on how does the spiritual world looks, and the ability to go to a spiritual world and reside is in the spiritual world, leaving the illusion of this material world. See, most of the time we think this is the permanent place, we have to stay here longer, and whatever attachment we have for our spouse, for our kids, for our parents, is going to prevail for all the time. And it becomes very difficult for us to unshackle this from our day-to-day lives and think that this doesn't belong to us. So the sense of detachment is being discussed here, because we think, because as this is a perverted reflection of the spiritual world, we think this is the place, and we do not like to go to a different place, which upon our demise we have, if we do not uh, i- illogically, in the sense that we do not uh, we lead a life, and then based on how we have led the life, we have a body assigned to us. So all of us, by virtue of our conduct in this material world, is going to go somewhere. It's a matter of 50 years, 60 years, 70 years, 80 years, whatever the case may be. But we never ever try to leave this material world, even if we know that it is dukhalaya saswatam. That means it is temporary and it is full of misery. So, where Krishna is saying that if you know how my place is, you would never feel like coming back. So, here Krishna is showcasing in Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita is a testament of our day to day life as to what our life should be, what our aspiration should be, what our conduct should be, and what our attachment/detachment should be. So, here Krishna is saying we have to grow that sense of detachment from this material world, so that when the time comes, when you have a time to unshackle yourself from this material world and go to the spiritual world, we are ready. And that is why Krishna is showcasing the beautiful qualities of spiritual world. And it is very difficult for a person who doesn't believe in Krishna to believe in his words, that the spiritual world can be so beautiful, that everything is transcendental there. You do not need sun, moon to light that place. So something very pure is being explained here by the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna in this verse. So we just have to recognize that the sun is controlled by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So when Arjuna was had taken a vow that Jayadratha, who was instrumental in killing Abhimanyu, his son, if he would not end up killing Jayadratha before the sun sets, he is going to get into the fire and kill himself. That was Arjuna's vow. And when he was and knowing that Arjuna has taken a vow to kill Jayadratha, Duryodhan, Karna, and everyone were doing formations around so that Arjuna cannot reach Jayadratha. So they were doing all kind of, you know, archery, formations, covering up, shooting in a very progressive way, so that, and Karna was right in the middle. That day Arjun, Lord Krishna also took some shots of the arrow, and it is explained so beautifully in Mahabharata. As Arjuna was in a totally different form on that day. He was just shooting everywhere. He was just cutting across all the formations, and he was just about to get to Jayadratha, because that was the vow. And knowing that Arjuna is a true Kshatriya and he will keep his word, everybody wanted the evening to arrive. Everybody wanted the sun to set before Jayadratha could be killed. And for a moment, sun did come down under the instruction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna, who was the charioteer at that point. And at that point, Jayadratha realized, and he celebrated a bit early. And when he could see, he could be seen by Arjuna, because Arjuna can shoot anybody from anywhere, and he can shoot in the dark. His name is Gudakis, and we've spoken a lot about the archery skills of Arjuna, and he just shot Jayadratha at the right time. So in this situation, sun was totally under the instruction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So here Krishna is saying that in the place where I reside, wherever Krishna is, there is no darkness. And wherever the Supreme Personality of Godhead is not there, however lighted it may be, it is dark, is full of nescience. So it is, so that's why we have to have the right eyes to see the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And here, what a way to control the sun. And also in Bhagavad Gita, in earlier verses, Krishna has mentioned that he has told this Bhagavad Gita to Vivaswan, who is the sun god. And through the disciplic succession, it has traveled. The news of and the knowledge of Bhagavad Gita has traveled, and sun is under the control. And Dhritarashtra, and going to another pastime, as you know, Dhritarashtra was, after the Kauravas' demise, after the 100 sons were killed by Pandava, and a lot were killed by Bhima. Dhritarashtra was so much attached to his body, attached to this material world, that Yudhishthira Maharaj gave him a place, a palace to stay. And Dhritarashtra was enjoying. He was getting old, but he was still enjoying after the demise of the 100 sons. So he was eating, he was talking, and sometimes because of his age, he couldn't talk because he would get mucus in his throat. And seeing all these things, that he has no remorse to really detach himself and go back. Dhritarashtra embodies the deep-rooted mindset in all of us who wants to stay in this terrible world, terrible material world, in spite of us knowing that this is a place of disaster. So Dhritarashtra was staying there, eating and eating, and Vidurji would come and would say, "Why are you staying here? Why don't you build up a sense of detachment and go for Vanaprastha? Take retirement. Don't stay here." But Dhritarashtra was never listening. Dhritarashtra was so sick in his understanding of the the holy instructions, that he was never having a sense of detachment from this material world. However, old age he was in, mucus coming out, and he was not able to talk. A time came when Vidurji chastised Dhritarashtra and told him that he is living his life with remnants from Bhima. And that was a shock to Dhritarashtra, because Bhima killed most of his sons, and the person Dhritarashtra hated most was Bhima. And Vidurji had to really sort of get him back into his senses by saying that he is living his life by eating the remnants from Bhima. And when Dhritarashtra heard it, that night he couldn't sleep. And at midnight, towards the before the early day has started, in the night, he left the palace, and with him Gandhari, who is a very powerful um, person in our understanding of the spiritual philosophies, that she also left with Dhritarashtra, and finally Vidur met with him. But in this context, Vidurji acted as a guru to really unshackle that sense of attachment to this material world and throw it out and go to the process of seeking the Supreme. And that caused Dhritarashtra to realize the extent of attachment he was under, for which you need, all of us needs a guru. And that guru at that point in time happened to be his stepbrother, Vidur Mahatma, who had to show the light. So the sense of someone coming in your life to tell you that this place is a misery is actually indirectly a guru in this context. And this clearly shows why we should have an affinity for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And that is essentially why and how we should conduct ourselves. That's why it is mentioned, Tadvidhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadekshakyanti te jnanam jnanina tattvadarshana. That means we have to seek knowledge, seek uh, to clear our doubts with a humble mood, asking pariprashnena, asking the right questions in a humble mood, and seek it from a spiritual master possibly, or in association of devotees. The self-realized souls can impart knowledge to us because they have seen the truth, they have understood the teachings of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And what you become at the end of this process of gaining is how you conduct yourself. The kind of life you end up taking depends on yam yam vapi smaran bhavam. At the end, however, you remember the Supreme Personality of Godhead when you're quitting the body anta kalevaram, anta kalevaram. That means when kalevaram is the body at the time of end, um, with that state, with that consciousness, you'd regain your body. So our intent has to be to conduct ourselves in such a way in this material world that, given the understanding of the Supreme Personality of Godhead's abode and how beautiful it is, how transcendental it is, we should all try to gather a taste to go. And as we know, it doesn't matter whether you go to Golok Vrindavan in the first compartment of a train, if a train is going to Golok Vrindavan, or in the last compartment, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter whether you seek Krishna consciousness in at the age of 20 or 30 or 40 or 50. As long as you have got that taste, it doesn't matter whether you're in the last bogie of the train going to Golok Vrindavan. Going there is more important. Seeing the beauty of that is more important. But once you have realized that, once you've understood the importance of the Krishna Loka, the place where you don't need suns to illuminate, moons to illuminate, it is illuminated by the Brahma Jyoti of the Lord. I think we have understood, and the deep desire to go there with a sense of detachment from the material world and a sense of attachment to the Golok Vrindavan in this example will get us clearer, and we will derive a sense of detachment in our day-to-day lives, and will not seek to get a position or seek to get some material benefit, and we'll try to serve the Lord. So this is an example of the qualities of the spiritual world. So Krishna, through his very numerous teachings, is telling us how beautiful, how sublime, how Sachitanand the place of his abode is, and which is eternal, and why we all should have a sense of abiding by these teachings and not try to follow the rules and go on the right side of the road in India and meet with an accident. We should always abide by the rules, and the Supreme Personality of Godhead has created this wonderful world, and we have to follow the injunctions so that we go and follow the rules. And once we follow the rules, we create our pathways to go to the Supreme Personality of Godhead's abode and not become jailed uh, in this material world by becoming and not following the rules and regulations. Get regulated as much we can, eat regulated, read regulated, and derive yam yam vapi. Conduct yourself regulated, so that at the time when serpents should be biting us at the antakal kalevaram, we have the right mindset to leap over to the spiritual world in our journey to go back to Godhead. So with that, like to end here. Hare Krishna, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Anybody have any question, comments, reflections? Let's take a moment to discuss that. And and see how important all these verses, when it goes into our ear and it goes into our system, into our hearts, and how these things helps us in transforming ourselves. So any comments, questions?
Prabhuji, I had one comment where in the purport, right? It has been written in Vaikuntha, so the internal potency controls on the lights and everything. The illumination and everything, it has been controlled by the internal potency, and there is no need for sun or moon or any stars.
That's right.
This internal potency, I mean, from my limited knowledge, so is it Radha or Nadini Sakti or whatever they call it? So, I mean, I forgot. So, is it something like related to that or anything else?
See, the Ladini Sakti of the Lord is the pleasure potency of the Lord. Pleasure potency in the sense that Lord has different Shaktis. Lord is the Saktiman, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the energetic, and he is having various different kinds of energy. To my understanding, Prabhu, the Ladini Sakti of the Lord is the pleasure potency of the Lord. So, Lord derives happiness, Lord gains excitement, and that is the owner or the originator of that Ladini Sakti is Srimati Radharani. So in that context, that part is there. So in terms of illumination, right? We think this illumination is to do with a self-ignited object in the form of a sun, which is ignited. But the Lord, there are, they say the Lord's uh, body parts, they emanate light as well. So wherever Lord is, wherever the associates of the Lord is, as it is absolute, you don't need sun to illuminate, because when somebody is illuminating a place, they are superior, right? So in a
Yes.
place where Golok Vrindavan is there, where the Supreme Personality of Godhead resides for good, he is also with us in this material world. But when his permanent place is being spoken about, there is no one who could enlighten the Supreme Personality of Godhead. There is no potency of that other thing who can illuminate the greatest illuminator of the world. So in that context, uh, the Lord doesn't need an external object to illuminate the Golok Vrindavan. Did that help, Prabhu?
Yes, yes, Prabhuji. Very much. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you. Any other comments? Anyone else? So was this class helpful in understanding, like whenever you take an apartment, you pretty much want to see, what kind of features the apartment has, what kind of, how many balconies it has, is it sea facing or this, that, does it have big windows? Then you get attracted by the place, right? So likewise, in this verse, Krishna is telling how beautiful Golok Vrindavan is, how eternal the place is. So I don't know if the excitement and the enthusiasm to get there is seeking and seeping in our hearts and minds. But the objective of this discussion today, Prabhu and Mataji, is to arouse that sense of deep desire to go back to this wonderful place called Golok Vrindavan. So if we are loving too much this job and we think this job is going to take us forever and our family is going to take us forever, it's just a lot mechanism to say that there is better places and there is nicer things in this world. We have to do our duty. That's a must. But we should seek to greener pastures. And one of the greenest pasture is Golok Vrindavan for all of us to uh, desire for. Okay. Any other comments?
I have one in case if anyone has question. So, Prabhuji, a few days back, I was listening to one of the Srimad Bhagavatam class of Radha Gopinath Prabhu Maharaj, so Mumbai Chopati. And as you know, he is a very good orator and awesome speaker. So he was giving an example of Golak Vrindavan, and especially he was giving an example how powerful this is. So he was giving an example of a very great devotee in Mumbai. He has not mentioned the name. He said long time back, I mean, in the 90s kind of thing during that time. So he was kind of not having anything, means struggling, not having anything. So he took one day, he just, what happened? He said that, okay, I'm a kind of a loser, so nothing is there. So he said, I will die, means he will commit suicide. So next day in the morning, so in Bombay, so he was going to the nearest railway track. So, and Ganpati Puja was there. And on Pandal, they play the songs, right? So one song, Kishore Kumar song was playing. That song was saying, "आ चल के तुझे मैं लेके चलूं एक ऐसा गगन की तरह जहां something is that." Okay, so he was going to die. He was means almost near the track. He listened to the song. He said, how is it possible? Means that song catcher. Do you think this kind of world is really possible? So then he said, if somebody has written, I mean, such a naive thought here, then obviously this could be possible. Okay. So then he said, no, I won't die. Let me go through that. Whoever wrote this song. So one of the guy who is a friend of him, then he said, yeah, who wrote this song? I think some very big lyricist at that time who composed that song in Bollywood. He went to his house. He said, Somi, you wrote this, so there must be a blueprint exist. Otherwise, how this thought came to you? Okay. Then that guy said, that Bollywood, that composer, he said, you are a crazy guy. Just get lost. I mean, I write so many songs. Okay. Then he was not settled, and somebody called him to Mumbai temple, ISKCON temple, and I think Radhanath Swami Maharaj or somebody who was grieving the Srimad Bhagavatam, that chapter where he was talking about the Golak Vaikuntha, okay, and he was talking about there is no grave, there is no, yeah, everything light, everything is there. Then he related that song to this concept, and he became a completely devotee.
Hmm.
So
Very
I
nice.
loved that. I mean, means that I heard that Srimad Bhagavatam class of Radha Gopinath Prabhu. I felt, my God, people can, when Srimad Bhagavatam and those scriptures can change the life of people.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, these are transcendental. Thank you for sharing this first. Second thing is, this Bhagavad Gita is spoken from the lotus mouth of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Srimad Bhagavatam is written about Srimad Supreme Personality of Godhead by Vyasadev, who is who is one of the top Mahajans, you may say, in terms of knowledge, in terms of great, in terms of understanding. So, as these things are not written by this lyricist or whoever wrote that song, these people have seen the Supreme Personality of God, and one of them is spoken by the Supreme Personality of God himself. So it cannot be. There is no way this can be altered over a period of 100 years, 200 years, where it has stood the test of time for millions and millions of years. So yes, there are many stories, many pastimes of how Bhagavad Gita has changed people's lives. Srimad Bhagavatam has changed people's lives, and our ability to inquire and get to the bottom of these scriptures through the process of hearing, as you mentioned, and Radha Gopinath Temple has a lot of wonderful speakers. So we should always try to get association and cleanse our hearts by hearing nice things like this, transcendental things, and that will help us. Thank you, Prabhu. Any other comments? I don't know if we have a quiet audience, but that's fine. Yes, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
I'm just kind of I'm starting. You can say I'm a beginner. I'm closely following Amog Leela Prabhuji. So I'm just they're giving some guidance, like if someone is new, what they need to do. So as per his suggestion, they said join the devotee association, then you will get more and more. And
Yes.
same trying to do so. First of all, I connected with Pratap Prabhuji. I get more direction. Now I'm trying to become trying to make more get association with more devotees.
Mhm.
So even though last few days I was trying to change my house, I was not able to join this class. But I was feeling I was missing something like that. I'm not something is missing in my life. So again I joined this class, and I feel very good. And thank you very much, all of you, to invite me in this discussion.
Thank you, Prabhu. First and foremost, Amog Lila Prabhu is a very well respected and followed um, devotee of our movement, and he is such a powerful preacher. If you're following and something has inspired you to join the association, this process of Krishna consciousness starts with A, B, C, D, and A stands for association. So you've done the best thing in the world, and then whenever we discuss this Bhagavad Gita was a discussion between Krishna and Arjuna. Likewise, to understand Bhagavad Gita, we need to have a discussion. So this Bhakti Vriksha we are doing is a form of discussion, and different people have different challenges in their lives. Different devotees have different issues in their lives, and this is an opportunity in a so whenever you have a temple setting where 150 people are there, you can share some of the personal traits, and Bhak- Bhakti Vriksha is an opportunity where we can share some of the challenges, some of the risks, issues we are all involved with, and you have done the right thing. So keep joining, and if at all we need you need some specific you have any specific questions, we can discuss in a very small forum like this, or we can discuss it from our WhatsApp group. You could connect with some of us, and we can definitely interact more and more. But thank you for joining, and thank you for your association. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Any other comments? Pradeep Prabhu, you want to say something?
Prabhuji, thank you.
Thank you, Prabhu. So if there is no other questions or comments, we can end here. We will resume depending on the situation with holidays. I'll keep you posted. We'll see if everybody is out of station or whatever, and I'll try to set something up next Saturday or next Saturday, or skip one of them depending on whether you're busy or not. But thank you for keeping us. You can basically join from anywhere. You just need your phone to get our weekly inspiration of this discussion. So with that, let's end here by paying obeisance at the lotus feet of all the Vaishnavas. Vancha kalpataru Vasha kripa sindhu vaevacha
पतितानां
patitanam
पावनेभ्यो
pavanevyo
वैष्णवेभ्यो
vaishnavevyo
नमो
namo namo.
नमः जय
Vaishnava
श्री
vrinda
कृष्ण
ki jai.
जय
Bhagavad Gita ki jai.
जय
Gaur Premanande. Hari Hari Bol.
हरि बोल